You're listening to the Build Your Business podcast, powered by Turnkey Coach, where we help business owners find freedom over fear.
I'm Matt Reynolds.
And I'm his brother, Chris Reynolds.
Join us as we help build your business and move from fear to freedom together. You were talking about you've been waking up really early. How early did you wake up this morning?
2:30.
Okay. So yesterday, and do you track your sleep at least on your sleep aid, right? Or eight sleep.
Yep.
By the way, would be a great sponsor for the podcast because we love it. We've both paid the $5,000 or whatever it is for that thing. I woke up yesterday morning at 2:40 a.m. I just looked at it. I slept 5 hours and 44 minutes. So I went to bed at 8:56, got up at 2:40. I went so hard that the only thing I ate yesterday was a half-eaten roast beef sandwich that I just found in the fridge and heated up for a minute and ate it and got right back to work. So that's the life that we're leading right now. Again, this is part of this, like we're actually founders and business owners. So you woke up at 2:30, your brain went nuts, I assume, and you were like, I'm just getting up.
Yep. I was like, I was already planning to get up. I had a lot of work to do. So I was like, I'm going to get up at like 3:30. So
had you set an alarm for like 3:30 or anything, or?
I had, but it never works. It's not like I wake up before my alarm every time.
Yes.
So
except for the occasional plane trip where I have to set it for 3 a.m. Occasionally that wakes me up, but it's pretty rare. So yes, funny story yesterday. So I get up at 2:40 a.m. I work nonstop. I have a ton of calls. I'm working on SOPs. I'm working on like big, we got a board meeting coming up. I'm working on financial plans and all that sort of stuff. And when I say no breaks, like what I mean is not enough time to go to the bathroom, not enough time to get a coffee, not enough time to make food. So
it's the life I live. I get it.
Yeah, right. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I have a roof over my head, which is wonderful, and I love it. But yesterday was one of those days. So at about 7:30 last night, my youngest is kind of sick, and she's up in her room. Just she's got tuberculosis or consumption. I think it might be the same thing.
The consumption.
We're going to have to take her probably to the ER in the next couple of days. She's on antibiotics and prednisone and all that fun stuff. And so she's up there, holed up, and my youngest daughter was down at the cabin and doing a bonfire with her boyfriend, and my wife had a church event. So I was home by myself, and it was like 7 at night. I hadn't eaten anything. I ordered something and ordered some Mexican food, I think, which I barely made. I ate a third of it because I didn't really even have time to eat it before it got cold. And I thought, I've been working since 2:40 in the morning. And so I'm going to turn on a movie in the background that I've seen a million times that I don't have to pay attention to, that I love. And I'll work a little slower, obviously, because I've been working for 16 hours or whatever. My brain is going to be slow. So I turn on The Big Short, which is both of us.
Fantastic.
One of our favorite. If you haven't seen The Big Short, and you're a business owner, you should watch it because it's about the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, the housing market crisis. I've probably seen it 25 times.
Yeah.
I can quote most of it, right?
Yep.
So it's playing in the background. It's kind of like the volume's kind of down and I'm just working and the screen's open. And my oldest daughter comes home at maybe 8:45 or so and immediately starts taking video of me sleeping in my chair with the laptop open on my lap, which I know is kind of a dad thing to do. It's just not a me. I don't typically fall asleep in my chair. I'm like, when I get sleepy, I go up and go to bed.
Yep.
But I fell asleep in my chair. I think I'd been sleeping for at least an hour. I probably fell asleep at 7:30 or 7:45. She took video, and then she woke me up, and the whole family is laughing hysterically at me. And I was like, guys, I have worked since 2:40 this morning with no breaks. I didn't train. I didn't walk. I didn't eat. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't make coffee. That was my day yesterday. And so, lest anybody think that the book that I wrote, Undoing Urgency, is not written specifically for me and also hopefully helps other people. It is, and it came out on Audible on audiobook in the past week, and it's cheap and it's great to get. So I had one of those days where I just fell asleep because I was so exhausted at the end of the day. And then when I woke up this morning, I opened up my laptop, and of course the tabs were all open from the things I was doing last night. So I went up to bed and I immediately went to sleep. Rachel, my wife, was like, she got home from her church thing. They're all laughing at me, and I wasn't really embarrassed because I don't really get that way. And she's like, "You okay? Have you had a lot to drink?" And and I was like, I had one beer, and I don't even think I finished the beer with dinner. So no, this is what happens when you work a 16-hour day, 17-hour day, and you don't take any breaks. And so today may be one of those days for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I did it yesterday too. So like, it's just, my sleep is so bad at this point, and
That's not good.
It has nothing to do with 8 sleep. It just has everything to do with I don't know. I stopped caring about it. Everybody's all crazy about their sleep. They're like, I got to get like the 80%, 90%. I'm like, screw that. I don't care about that.
I will say my deep sleep is pretty good. So like 2 nights ago when I got up at 2:40, I still had 2 hours and 36 minutes of deep sleep.
Yeah, I usually get that too. That's right.
Which is pretty good. And then last night I slept a little over 7 hours, still got up early, but part of when I get up, like getting up early, we've talked about this before, still very much affects me at night. It doesn't affect me that much during the day. So this morning I got up at 4. Yesterday's 2:40. That's a pretty big difference. So like if you wake up at 4, 4:35, whatever, as a founder, and today or the day you're listening to this, or whatever, someday this week, you get up at 2:30, like at some point that hits. And for some people, it hits at 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And for me, it hits at like 6:30 to 7:30 at night, where all of a sudden I become Forrest Gump. my IQ drops below 80. And so that's where I was. So, okay, so you woke up early. I had a ton of stuff to do as well. We're doing lots of stops and fun stuff. And I'm excited. I mean, the stuff that I'm doing, I'm excited about. And I would assume it's the same thing for you. We're not like in crisis mode.
No, I mean, in fact, I think some of mine is driven almost entirely by my excitement for it. Like when I wake up, I just think, would I rather get up and make coffee and do the stuff I want to do, or would I rather lay here and sleep? And
that's exactly what I think. I was like, if I wake up at 2:30, and I'm like, if I sleep another hour and a half and I wake up at 4, I think to myself, but how much work could I get done in the next hour and a half?
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that I always think about is I could always take a nap. If I want to take a nap, I can take a nap, right? And sometimes I do, right? Sometimes I take a nap. Most of the time I don't, though. Most of the time I just kind of keep going. And like you, at 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm like a complete disaster. Don't really answer questions from anybody in a sane way. And that's just sort of the way things go.
Sure.
I've also noticed as I've gotten older that my sleep schedule is... went from being very consistent. I fall asleep at the exact same time. I wake up at the exact same time to I typically still fall asleep at the same time, but I wake up a little bit random times, like 2:30, like not late, never late, but like maybe super
sometimes
early or really early. Like one of those two is when I wake up. And, and like 1 or 2 days a week, I'll sleep what is essentially close to 7 hours.
Yep.
And that's all I need. Like a few times a week, I need to hit that and I'll be fine.
If you're good at deep sleep, Huberman has said, and I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but if you have a night that you have terrible sleep, it actually should not affect the next day that much.
Yeah.
But if you have 3, 4, 5, 7 days in a row of terrible sleep, it definitely affects it. So that's kind of we're obviously very genetically related. If I wake up at 2:30 in the morning for 4 days in a row, then there will be a day that I go to bed at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And I sleep till 4:30.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, I just slept 10 hours.
Yeah. That's right. That's what I do too.
It's pretty rare. Okay.
No.
All right. So that's the cold open. Welcome to the Build Your Business podcast with your co-hosts, Matt Reynolds and Chris Reynolds. I'm Matt. He's Chris. You have heard from both of us. And we want to get in today about how do you sell without feeling salesy. Let's start from the customer standpoint because everybody's been a customer here. As a matter of fact, I was just at a car dealership. My truck has almost 160,000 miles on it. It's in beautiful condition. You've seen it. It's awesome. Looks great. I compliment it on it all the time. But that level of mileage is like it's time for a new truck. And I had a great experience in my local town because it just didn't feel like I was talking to a sales guy. Now, I knew I was talking to a sales guy, but this guy was pretty good because he actually knew, I think, that I was serious about like it's time to trade in this truck and get another truck. And the most painful part of buying a car is the negotiation of the price and the interest rate or whatever the thing is. And so, but he doesn't do that. The sales guy doesn't do that. The finance guys do that.
Yep.
So he was just able to kind of be my friend and do the thing. So he did this. I had this experience, but we've also had the experience where we felt pushed by or, felt like there was pressure put on us by a salesperson. And so everyone hates, I don't know anyone that would say, I love salesmen. Everybody hates salesmen.
Yep.
And if you're listening to this and you're a salesman, I get it. That means you have to change your perception to the customer from salesman to I'm helping you do a thing, right? And
That's right.
I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let me start with this. We're founders, we're business owners. Some of you are listening to this. You've got hundreds of employees. Some of you have 0 employees. You're the only one. What is the number one job of a founder? Because you hear this all the time. Like the number one job is to make sure there's enough cash in the bank to pay the payroll or whatever the thing is. But if I just asked you point blank, what is our number one job as founders and business owners? What do we do?
We solve problems.
We solve problems.
That's it.
And that means we solve problems with our company and our personal life and whatever. We solve problems for our clients. That's why they stay, don't churn, have a high lifetime value if you do this well. And we solve problems for potential clients.
Yep. That's it.
And that's sales. All right, end of podcast. We can cut it off. I mean, like if you can understand this concept, that is sales.
Yeah. So I think the reason that I have been so effective at sales over the course of my life, and I always have, and I didn't know that I would be, honestly. When I first started, I was a kid. I was in my early 20s, right? Had never done any sales before. I was nervous. Like, I'm going to go stand in front of board meetings and, do this thing. What I didn't expect was that because I'm naturally pretty empathetic, like I'm pretty good at putting myself in other people's shoes and to understand like, okay, what if I was in your shoes, how would I feel about this thing? And how would I see it? If you just do that, you're going to do great at sales because all you really need to do is imagine that you're that other person.
That's right.
And go, what thing does that person care about? What thing do they need to get done? What problems do they have? And how can I help? And if you figure that out, can I solve it?
And by the way, if you can't solve it, you shouldn't even try to sell them.
No, you shouldn't sell them.
That's a morality issue.
Yeah,
I'm not just trying to cash the check. I'm actually trying to solve their problem. And so typically we would go from like 30,000 foot view to the trenches. I actually want to do the opposite today. Let's start in the trenches where you're talking to a potential lead. So you have a lead or someone that you're trying to sell your product or service for. It's an actual human being. You're not giving a general speech, which I do actually want to at least touch on for a second. You're speaking to a general audience, which I think looks a little bit different. What are the primary things that you're looking for when you are speaking to an individual that is especially, and they should be, a decision maker for the company on whether to purchase your product or service?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I do this, the very first thing that I'm looking for is, can I disqualify them from being a good potential client for me? That's it. That is my initial thing. I try to disqualify them first.
And how do you disqualify? Like, what would be some of the things?
Right. So there's a series of things that I kind of go through. Like one of them is, are they the right size? Like a lot of times people are looking for, in our business, a lot of times people are looking for help. don't really have the budget for the thing that they're looking to do. And
Sure.
I don't want to waste their time, and I really don't want to waste my time. And so it just doesn't fit. There are other aspects of it where the customer is looking for something that we are not, even if they have the budget. They're looking for
Sure.
something that we are not, or we're not particularly good at it. We're not the best at this thing. And usually I know who is the best, and I'll just be like, you should go talk to these people.
And by the way, that creates, so one of the big things I think that maybe the most important thing for a salesperson is we talked about this on the last episode, is to create trust. So when they see you as a salesperson, they trust nothing you say.
That's right.
When they start to see you as a person who is an advocate for them to solve their problem, even if that means it's not us. Hey, you should go talk to acme.com because they solved that exact problem. We could solve this problem. That's not really what we do. It takes a lot of hours. Will probably be more expensive, but these guys are awesome. Then immediately what you've done is you've put yourself in the back of their mind so that when they have a problem that is the thing you solve,
Yeah.
they follow up. So it becomes, there is a long tail piece there when you start to build trust with the potential client, even if they're not the client today or in the next couple of weeks. Maybe it's 2 years down the road. You have lots of stories about this where you've started to post lots of content on LinkedIn and people that you've known in past years that you forgot existed or whatever. And they've reached back out because you built a level of trust with them. And they're like, I know you can do this. And would you say that's one of your greatest lead sources?
Oh, no question. That is our only, truthfully, that is our only lead source outside of direct customers, our direct customers reaching out to other people or other people talking to them. So we also get them through our client base, right?
Yeah, like a 1 degree of separation.
1 degree of separation. That's pretty much where we get. And we're not trying to be some massive scaled $1 billion agency. And so I don't want to grow faster than that. I need to grow well, and so that doesn't really matter. But the thing that I think is really important about this is if you do this, if you sort of take that approach, you're not trying to sell, you're trying to solve.
That's right.
And if you
wait, hold on. You're not trying to sell. You're trying to solve. Right?
Yep.
Like the goal is not to show them all the bells and whistles and things that you do. It's to figure out and dive deep, and we'll dig into this. Like continue to peel back the onion skin and the layers to figure out what is their actual problem, what is their actual challenge, and can you solve it? And if you can, show them how you can solve it. I think too many sales guys want to do like demos of the whole thing. Here's all the stuff we do. Generally,
they don't care.
They don't care because they only have 1 or 2 problems.
Yeah,
they might have 8 and 6 they don't know about.
Yeah,
but you're trying to solve the one they care about.
Right now, the one they care about now.
Here is the bottleneck in my business today.
Yeah. It's so much easier to get their attention when the thing that you're delivering is the thing that they need right now. There's all kinds of places for you. Like, again, put yourself in the position of the buyer, which you are very frequently, right? You're the buyer.
Sure.
There may be things that you want to buy in a year. And like I know I'm probably in the car market in the next year, probably, right? But if I have a car guy come up to me and say like, I want to sell you a car now, like now's not the time.
Right.
6 months might be the time, right? You hit me at the right time, we'd be good to go. The other thing I wanted to say is like, it's not just the sales guy that is distrusted at the beginning of a conversation or whatever. It's everybody. Humans are just built this way. By default, when you interact with a complete stranger, we've all seen the news. We've all, everybody's been exposed to a lot of stuff. Like you start with distrust. That's where you start. Like, I don't trust this guy.
Yeah, you're running them through filters.
Yep.
See if they pass the test.
There's a million things your brain is doing.
Is this a good human or is this a human that's trying to take advantage of me?
Yep. So there's a lot of, are they like me? Can I relate to them? There's just a bunch of stuff that our brains do. And I think one of the things that is really important to think about is when you start with there might be an opportunity here and I'm going to start pursuing it versus there might be an opportunity here, but first I'm going to see if it even makes sense. And maybe I'm going to suggest something else. You go up 20x in their mind for trustworthiness. And I've been in the situation enough times to be able to tell stories about it. I had one last week. Last week I had one where I was talking to a guy. He wanted some help getting sort of a very messed up situation in their software turned around.
Yep.
And so we're talking about it, and I'm starting to perceive that maybe there's not a lot of budget here to do this thing. And so I said, listen, let me stop you right here. There are many ways to get this done in a way that is going to meet your budget, but I don't think that's us.
Yeah.
I don't think people call us in as SEAL Team 6 to go solve an extremely difficult problem where you need 4 guys with 20 years of experience.
You're the wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Right. So you're the
guy that comes in and cleans up the dead body. We got a massive crisis solution, and in 24 hours, this thing is fixed.
Right.
But it's also expensive. And because your budget is $5,000,
right,
and because it's not uber urgent, then there are lots of other people that will do this over the course of the next couple months.
Yeah.
That will meet that budget, but that will not be us.
That's right. And so what happens? What happens when that happens? They can't get enough.
They
can't get
They're
enough.
like, ooh, I like this guy. I want to build trust with this guy.
I literally didn't take this one. So this is a great example where I said, listen, why don't you go, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go talk to other people. And I'll give you I'll send you an email with a couple of places you might check. Okay. And the only filter you're running is, do I trust that these people will actually solve my problem, or are they going to take my money and I'm going to still have a problem at the end of it, right? That's the filter you're running. I think you already know from talking to me, we will absolutely solve your problem. I've no doubt, because we've not failed ever on any of these projects. So we'll do it, but we'll be super expensive. So your filter that you're going to run on this thing is, can I get this done for cheaper and still get the confidence that this thing is going to get done?
Yep.
And the guy's like, ooh, okay. So he goes, it wasn't even 24 hours. Inside the next morning, I wake up, I open my laptop, there's an email from the guy. The guy's like, I don't really want to take the risk. I want you guys.
Yep.
You're the ones I want. And I was like, I hate to tell you this, man, but
fix it fast, but it's not going to be cheap.
Yeah. So this is some people would put this into play as a tactic. I'm telling you, don't do that. Don't put it in play as a tactic. It's not a tactic.
Right.
Just be real.
So number one, the best way to sell without feeling salesy is to be authentic.
Yes.
Like, actually care about the lead.
Yes.
Whether you close them today, tomorrow, 2 weeks, or 2 years from now, or never, you care about helping them. You are a problem solver as a founder, or if you're a sales manager or whatever, you are a problem solver. You solve their problem the best way that is possible. And if that's not you, you send them somewhere else. And if it is you, then you can start to work into that sales pitch. So number one is authenticity. Number two, we've kind of danced around it, but we haven't said it, is that the person asking the questions is in control. My job, and we're both, we can both turn on the kind of external, big extroverted personality. I've had to learn on sales calls, which I think most people would think would be, I need the most extroverted personality. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
They need the person that's going to ask the questions and dig deeper and peel another onion skin off, and then another one, to actually ask the question. So even if they're asking questions, like, okay, why do you cost so much for us? Or what other certifications do your coaches have?
Yeah.
I just respond not with an answer, but with a question. What certifications matter to you? And what price point matters? What does that have to do with? I learned this at the gym. When somebody walked into the gym and the first thing they asked at the front desk is like, how much is the monthly membership? Wrong customer.
Yep.
We sell service here. We sell coaching. We sell excellence. This is not, I won't say the name, but we are not a big chain, Globo Gym, Purple equipment, $10 a month membership. Those are all over the place. Go get one of those. if you want a $1 double cheeseburger, which I don't think they sell anymore, but back in our teenage years, double cheeseburger, we don't sell those. We sell A5 Wagyu beef. We can sell it fast, but it ain't cheap.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Now, by the way, if you're listening to this and you sell $1 double cheeseburgers, then quantity is your, like, do it. Go after the quantity.
Yeah.
I'm after quality. I want less customers, more money. I don't want more customers, less money, right? The way you figure that out first is to be authentic and actually care. Even if in the first 30 seconds you've disqualified them as a potential client for yourself, give them another 10 minutes of your time as the CEO and founder of the business to help steer their ship to solve their problem.
Yeah. So let's talk about maybe a practical way that you can do this whenever you find yourself in one of these sales situations, because this is quite literally the way that I approach it. I stop thinking about myself as being someone who is selling our services, and I just think about myself like I'm a consultant for them, and I'm going to give them a free hour of consulting.
Yep.
9 times out of 10, I say that. I'm like, listen, here's the deal. I'm not going to charge you for this hour. I've been doing this for a long time. Let's spend a whole hour doing nothing but talking about the problems that you've run into. I'm going to tell you how I would solve it if I was in your shoes.
Yep.
And in some of those situations, it might be you need to find a company kind of like us. And in some situations, I'm going to say we'd be the wrong company in that situation, and I would go a different way. And this is what it is.
Sure.
And if you're honest about that process, of course, you're going to ask, you have to ask questions. You have to find out more about them. What is their problem? What are you going to do? So think of yourself as a consultant for them for free for an hour.
Yep.
And you're going to say some things that, the Gordon Geckos looking on from the outside would be like, that's a terrible idea. But like, this is just
no coffee for you.
Right. Genuine authenticity. And people are so not used to that. That is so rare in today's world that you win just by being authentic. And don't make it a tactic. People can read this as a tactic. Don't make it a tactic. Be literally willing to recommend something that isn't you and walk away and be done.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the game.
Yeah, we have coaches that come in all the time and they're like, I need a programming software, but I don't really care about coaching my clients or having a relationship with my clients. I want to sell them a template or a program. Like, we will send them somewhere else. Like, that's not what we do.
That's right.
Right. So also this comes back to previous episodes, is understand exactly who you are, what your core values are, what you do. I understand in the beginning, in the first 6 months of business ownership, you're often taking every amount of business that you can.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do that, because I think that you don't even know what your niche is yet.
You should do it. I totally agree.
I've done a lot of sales calls lately where they're like, I'm trying to figure out where my niche is. Is it, business executives or soccer moms or high school athletes or whatever the thing is? Like, well, if you don't know, just take them all.
That's right. That's the right move.
And then figure out which ones stick and which ones you relate to.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So real authenticity. And then 2, we call this a disco call, which means a discovery call. And you talked about it as a consultant, which I think is actually a better metaphor. I often think of it as like a journalist or somebody who is just trying to learn everything they can about the person and the company. The difference between the consultant and the journalist is the journalist has no answers. They just ask the questions. The consultant asks the same questions, or maybe better questions, and then provides a solution which may not be you. That's how you come across as not being salesy. So the first step is, after like truly caring and being authentic. And by the way, let me just make the point. Some of you founders out there are sociopaths. And I don't mean that in a horrible negative sense, because there are I think Elon is probably a sociopath. I think he can look at the numbers. Like, I've watched him a couple times around his kids get emotional, but for the most part, that guy is just like on the spectrum numbers, right? Well, that guy shouldn't be selling stuff. But you have people on your team, or you should have people on your team that are empathetic and can actually understand other humans' problems and can put themselves in the seat of the other human and will not be faking authenticity. And then, so if the authenticity is real, then you ask all the questions. If they ask a question, don't answer it. Here's the tactic. Answer it with a question, with a deeper question. They asked a question, but they're on like surface level.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get deep. So I'm going to ask a follow-up question that tries to get them down another level or two of depth. Why does that matter to you? Why is that important? Like, that was the first question you asked me. Like, you can say those things. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand where your roadblocks are, where your speed bumps are. Like, where's the problem? Where's the challenge? And eventually, if you ask enough follow-up questions, and by the way, the average is 7. If you're good at it, it may not take that many. You will figure out the absolute core root problem, not the symptom of the problem, but the actual problem.
Yep.
Once you ask enough questions and you're controlling the conversation, not by talking your way through the demo, which often in tech we want to do because we're so proud of the product or the service we offer, but you're controlling the conversation through the questions to get to the literal root cause of the problem of the potential client.
Yeah. And think about the fact that, like, if you're on this sales call and you're a founder, and let's say that it's kind of early stage stuff, right? By definition, you should be the expert in the area, right? Now, maybe you're not sometimes. Maybe there's, and if you're not, truthfully, you need to say you're not.
Sure.
Say it and get off the call.
Sure.
Like, that's fine. Most of the time, though, you're going to be the expert. And so the reason that we look at this, like, think about it like a consulting call where maybe you're literally just advising on it for free. That's it. That's what you're doing. Maybe you're a good fit. Maybe you're not. Try to be disinterested about that piece.
Yep.
But the reason we say that is, look, this person, there's a two-way value stream that's happening on this 1 hour call. All right. If it's an hour, I don't know how long it is. Like, a lot of these are 30 minutes.
Sure.
There's a two-way value street. One of them is they literally get the advice of a complete expert for that period of time for free. That's huge. That's huge for them. You need to deliver a lot of value in that time frame. And
by
that
the
value,
way, our company, and my guess is your company, has paid many thousands of dollars to consultants for that exact thing.
Yeah.
So they're $1,000 an hour to tell me everything they know about X because X is a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put them on the payroll. I want them to teach me. And by the way, if you're phenomenal at what you do, you probably shouldn't be consulting. You should probably be trying to get on the payroll, right? But for us, we've paid a lot of money to tremendous experts in the field of whatever, legal, financial, stuff that's kind of outside our realm that we've paid to tell us everything they can tell us to work through our projects and say, here are the places here's the holes and fix it. And here's how I'd fix it. And then you send them $1,000 and you fix it.
right. So, like, the thing to remember here is, especially as a founder, not just as a salesperson. Now, I would have a slightly different conversation with a salesperson. It's not exactly different, but it's different enough. And that is, you are talking to someone who may or may not be inside of your target customer profile, right?
Right.
If they're in your target customer profile, you get to learn a lot during that same time frame. Ooh, that's an interesting problem that maybe we're not addressing directly in our product or service. And maybe we could, right?
Yep.
Like, how much are they willing to pay for it? Like, they'll probably tell me that. And then I can at least have some idea of what, I'm getting new information and I'm getting good ground level information. The other thing that you're getting in that relationship is, let's suppose that they are outside of your target market and you don't want them inside of your target market, right? Like, it's just, no, this is really not our expertise. This is really not the thing. Now you have another interesting thing that comes out of it, which is, there might be potential partnerships with somebody that is
That's right.
that is perfect, right? And you have
a
another
referral program where you
anything,
refer and you
right.
get some sort of kickback or
Right.
whatever.
Anytime you find that, you've just found a tangential relationship. I always say there's like right beside it. I don't tangential is a bad word for this, but the whole point of it is that you're like right beside each other in business, but you're not really competing with each other.
Sure.
And when you
Adjacent.
find those, adjacent, thank you, it's a better word. When you find those, you want to make relationships with those people because with the founders of those companies, because you can refer to each other in that context. And it can be a very, very valuable relationship. So you're learning all kinds of things on these calls. It's not that you're getting nothing, but you should definitely aim to provide about 10x the value that they're providing back to you.
Correct.
Make them get off the phone and immediately call somebody and say, I just had the craziest sales call I've ever had that was fantastic. Didn't even sell me anything, and I learned all kinds of stuff about it. Like
that's right.
That's what you're looking for.
Right. And for the founder, or the seller, or the salesman, the sales manager, you're still collecting data on the industry to understand. It gives you a pulse. This is why I think like there's a lot of books that talk about sales management, that the sales manager should not do calls. I disagree. I don't think they need to do the same number of calls as the salespeople because their job is to train the salespeople, write the stops, do the things. But in the same way that we at Barbell Logic and Turnkey Coach actually utilize the software, that is a massive moat because I'm using it every day. Yeah. So I know exactly what it looks like. Like that's really important, right? So let me go out to 30,000 foot view. And I'm going to come right back to the trenches. So 30,000 foot view, you get the opportunity to present to a group of people, 30, 300, 3,000, doesn't matter, right? And you know that there is a significant percentage of people in the audience that are your target demographic. This is the one time that you should have a very polished presentation based on the time limit they give you of the general solutions that you solve, or even say specific solution. These are the problems we solve as a company. And I've done this and you've done this with investors, with groups of people who are sitting in a room who are potential clients.
Yep.
The reason I'm saying this now, that's the time to give the quote unquote demo or the overview of what you do, not at the personal level. So the overview, the demo, goes to the group if you get that opportunity. And then each time you get the opportunity to quote unquote pitch, there has to be a goal at the end. So when I go and do a public speaking event to a bunch of strength coaches, my goal is to get them to come to my booth and actually sit down and do an actual face-to-face discovery conversation where I can figure out what their personal problem is, what their business problem is, and I can offer them a solution. I can show them like, hey, exactly what I just heard you say. Let me show you how our software solves that. Or let me, because I know everyone in the industry, we don't exactly solve that problem. Let me send you to the right person. Hold on just a second. I'm going to send you a text. I'm going to connect you with this founder of this company, and they do exactly that, right?
Yep.
So the general demo of the overarching problem-solving skills that your company has goes to a general audience. So again, that might be podcasts, that might be YouTube, it might be it's often public speaking, trade shows, things like that. Once you get to the one-on-one piece, you start with the discovery, the questions, and ask more questions, and ask more questions, and ask more questions, and get to the root cause of their problem. And if you can solve that problem, like especially perfectly, then you go from disco or discovery to demo. I'm going to demo, not the whole thing. Like we have software, you have software, you have Dev Team.
Yep.
I'm going to solve what I heard you say was your two biggest challenges are this and this. Let me show you how my software will solve those two problems.
That's
and
right.
I will often say, our software does 1,000,000x that. And if I show you everything, it'll freak you out. So I'm just going to solve the problem that you stated today.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover that problem today. The reason I'm saying this is that there should always be a goal in mind. So if I'm speaking to a general audience, the goal is to get a face-to-face meeting, like in person or on Zoom. So I'm setting up a follow-up call next week on Zoom, or I'm literally having them come to the booth or whatever and talking through that stuff where they can actually get one-on-one personal time for me. And that's where the discovery comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm digging into what is their actual problem. Then if I can solve their problem, I demo how we can solve that problem. If I can demo it right then in real time, it's an amazing, like, that's the best thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't tell them you can solve the problem. Show them you can solve their problem. You said your problem is X. Let's go ahead and set up that problem and let me solve it right now.
That's
and
right.
You can see how it is. And then the last piece for us is that, and again, for each step, and it'll be different for every company, is there has to be a goal in each step of this, right? So if I solve their problem and they're like, oh my God, that just solved my problem, then the goal is to collect their information. I've got to get their name and email for sure, at minimum. For us, what we do, and I think you guys do it a little bit different, is their first month on our SaaS software is 100% free, no contract. What I'm going to try to do, if they're like, this is awesome, it solves my problem, my goal in sales, and we have a process of acquisition, which is sales, activation, which is like fully converting over to the thing. So think about the CRM, how long it takes to get to HubSpot, or, everything integrated into HubSpot or Salesforce or whatever. And then expansion, which is driving up LTV of the client and keeping them long-term. So my job is part of the acquisition team. And by the way, I'm a CEO who is a non-technical, non-operational, that's not entirely fair, but I'm definitely more wired to be sales. I can close, my COO said the other day, he was like, he can sell a red popsicle to a woman with white gloves. Right? And I'm like, yep. But the problem is that the sale alone doesn't solve any problems.
Yeah.
It's not till you get to the activation part where they actually utilize your service or product or software or whatever it is that you actually solve the problem. So for us, a closed sale is step one, registering for our software. Costs you nothing. So the piece of this that I want to touch on is reduce all the friction you can possibly reduce. Like, get rid of all the friction. Register, no contract, don't have to put in billing, start playing with it, see if it works for you. You'll get an email and a follow-up call scheduled, or go ahead and schedule a follow-up call for next week with our head of customer service. He's awesome. He'll walk you through all the steps, like start playing around with it. And when you run into a speed bump or roadblock, he will help walk you through that. He'll share his screen on Zoom and fix that roadblock. So we register with no friction. We don't take their money up front. We let them start to test out and beta test, play around with the software, and they don't get charged until 30 days later or a month later for using the software. Now, we don't get paid unless they have clients on their roster as strength coaching company. If a coach signs up, we get no money. So registration, one, is no friction for them, but it immediately creates friction for us. Our goal now is to get, so the end of the sales process for us is to get them registered for the software and get one client on their roster. So do you have a client, a spouse, a friend, someone you've coached for 5 or 6 years that can test this out from the client side? And we can go ahead and add them as part of this sales process. If I can get them at the end of that sales process, if I've been authentic with them and I care about solving their problem, if their problem is something that we can solve, if I can show them that we can solve that problem, I have essentially 100% close rate on getting them to register.
Yeah.
And then I go, now let's just add a client. And you're right here, or we're going to share the screen on Zoom. Like, we're either face-to-face or we're going to share the screen on Zoom. We're going to add a client. Okay. Do you have a client that you love, trust, and will not leave you if what I'm saying is a lie and it sucks? And it's not, and they'll stay, right? So if it's a spouse, or sometimes it's even, do you have another email address as a coach? You can set yourself up as a client. You can see it from the client side on your mobile phone. You can see it as a coach on the laptop. So the goal there is registration number one, an actual client they'll pay for 30 days later, which by the way is like between $5 and $10. So it's nothing. The risk to reward ratio for the client is extremely low.
Yeah.
And then once they get there, the acquisition process is done. And then we have a really smooth bridge in the onboarding to allow them to walk them through getting all of their clients on the roster.
Yep.
20, 30, 40, whatever the thing is. And so that's how you sell without being salesy. So you listen, you ask questions, you find the problem, not the symptom of the problem, the actual problem. If you can solve the problem, show them how you can solve the problem. If you can't solve the problem, send them somewhere else. You'll build trust and they'll come back 18 months later or 6 months later, or like your story, 24 hours later, and say, because you sent me to somebody else and you actually didn't try to take my money on day one, then I want to go with you and I'm willing to pay the extra money to get it done and get it done fast and get it done right. Then you can do that. And then the goal is to reduce the friction as much as possible to start that process. And from there, you move into the, how do I get them fully activated? How do I get them? And this is different. Like when I was in personal training or at our B2C business block, if somebody ponies up $300 a month for coaching, they start training tomorrow. And the activation is easy. The expansion is hard. How do I get them to expand to nutrition coaching, the academy, learning more about the stuff? For the coach, you want that actual acquisition to be easy. And then you want to walk them through. We've got all these automated emails and pop-ups on the app and whatnot that come up, but we always tell them, like, look, there is a real human that works for us that's not a third party, that you have their contact information, email and phone number. You can call them at any time. And our head guy's in Scotland, so he's 6 hours ahead of me, 5 hours ahead of you. So call him in the morning and he will open up his computer, he'll share his screen, and he'll walk you through the problem and get you fully activated. And then once they're fully activated, then we have a smooth transition handoff to the expansion team, which then is looking to expand their LTV, make sure they don't churn or that you don't have turnover there. That's how you sell without feeling salesy, is that you can feel confident when you're off the call that I didn't just try to get money. I'm not Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not, whatever. And those, by the way, Glenn Ross, Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room, those are 3 movies that every founder should watch.
Love those movies.
If you want to like psych yourself up and like, let's go, let's do this, then those are great movies. But the reality is what you're actually trying to do is not take their money.
Right.
You're trying to solve their problem.
Right. So everything that you just said, I think could, in many ways, can be wrapped into this little bundle of all sales are land and expand, right? So
that's right.
This idea is essentially that, and this is good for both of you. This is good for you. This is good for the customer.
Right.
Because what you want is for them to take small, iterative steps in the direction of maybe your full offering. Whenever you read sales books, if you go get any of the Hormozy books, if you look at Brunson, we're talking about sales pipeline. And the first thing that you do is provide them something at a very low cost that drives a lot of value for them. And the reason that you're doing that is not just because, I mean, they'll talk about the science of as soon as they open their wallet, their increased likelihood of doing it again. The reality is you're doing this because this is the way that they are risk mitigating.
That's right.
And you are also risk mitigating.
That's right.
Because you also need to find out whether they're a good customer or a good client or not.
Yep. If in that first step, they email you 40 times.
Guess what?
Or call your customer service 20 times.
Yeah, not a good fit. And so you definitely, this is good for both parties. And at the end of the day, all that's really happening is you're just trying to build a bridge to have trust between two parties. That's it. And that trust is going to get deeper the more they take a little baby step into it and like what they see, appreciate the value they're getting, feel like they're getting more value than they're paying. And the more that you feel like, hey, this is a great customer for us, we can make a profit. And this is a sustainable model for us to grow this business with customers like this, right? Perfect. Now, if you do that type of thing, then you also get really good feedback.
Happiness. Right. All that networking.
Yeah.
All those people know other people. You want to constantly, and we'll talk about NPS and customer happiness index, things we use, things you use. We'll do that on a future podcast. But the reality is like you start to really hone in on who the demographic is that you can actually truly please and will stay forever.
Right. That's how you grow the company.
That's right.
Well, by making sure that you're not ending up with a bunch of people who are like, this guy took my money and then I didn't really get the thing that I wanted. You know, that's horrible. That's death for a company. Like you won't survive that.
Yep.
You'll survive one of them. You won't survive 10 of them or 100 of them for sure.
Or even 5,
you know,
probably.
But like if you consistently drive this value, then getting the word I was looking for, by the way, is testimonial. You'll get good testimonials from people.
Right.
And that stuff is gold. You can use that on your website. You can use that in your marketing. You can use that whatever. And people love it. So this process of building great relationships with your customers, it starts at sales.
Yep.
And it never starts with this hard sell mentality that like is pushing for dollars. Like, don't do that.
Yep.
Like, go slow. You'll get there over time.
Yep.
And they'll surprise you.
Yep. We'll probably dive more into the weeds a little bit more in a future podcast. But for now, who are some of your favorite people that you're looking at? And knowing that, here's the deal. For any influencer that's on the internet, there is a little bit of that like cringe factor.
Yeah.
And so you have to take what's good and leave what's not, or, you know, what applies to your company. And so like, you know, so we talked about Hormozy, which we actually went to Vegas a few months ago and actually met him and Layla, and it was great. So who are some of your favorite people, or do you have off the top of your head that you're like, I follow these people and I learn from them on this process?
I mean, honestly, I don't have a ton of these. I do really like Hormozy. I like Hormozy's message is very in line with a lot of what we're saying here. It's like, look, people think they can sell a service and not be the expert. That doesn't work. Why? Because you can't get on that call and drive a ton of value for them because you don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
Right. So like, there's no easy road through this.
Right.
If you're great, if you're as great as you say you are, then those calls will be easy to get because people will be begging to have them every so often, at least, right?
Yep.
Maybe you don't have a giant pipeline yet. Great. But when you do have it, it's going to be pretty obvious. And so I'm a big fan of that perspective. I very much like the Russell Brunson books. I thought they were great.
Yep.
I think the whole concept around the way that you do pipeline is really, really valuable.
By the way, he's the funnels guy.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who his mentor is, the old guy with the mustache.
Yeah, I can't remember
but
either.
You'll see. So the Brunson books will give you everything you need for the funnels.
Yeah.
Hormozy, if not authentic, feels authentic.
Feels authentic for sure.
He's done a great job and Layla is the same. I like them. Dan Martell, which I've talked to several times, same sort of thing. Like it's about 30% of the salesy stuff you got to like toss out, and you got to figure out like, where is this guy actually bringing value? The other one that we didn't talk about, and maybe we will in a future podcast, we're actually still trying to work this out, you may be as well, is to get them into the initial call, or like discovery call, disco call as we call it, or face-to-face meeting. They know who you are, so your marketing team gets them into the funnel, but we need them to actually schedule a call.
Yeah.
There's a guy on Instagram called Jeremy Lee Miner, Jeremy Leeminer. Listen, he probably won't come on the podcast now because I'd like him to have, he's kind of douchey. He's kind of salesy. But here's the thing. He knows one of the hard things is that how many sales emails do you get a day?
Oh, I've literally, I can't even keep up my email at this point with how many there are. It's ridiculous.
Right. My EA, Dan Shell, does a tremendous job. I probably get 50 email, and the emails get better and better because they're using AI. So they say like, oh, I loved your podcast on the Build Your Business podcast with Chris about this episode. and this problem that you solved.
Yeah.
Then I open it, and then I'm just like, this is just a sales email.
Selling me
right?
crap.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Yep.
Jeremy Lee Minor, by the way, I've never paid for anything. I don't have any relationship with this guy, but he is like the email guy. And because I think if you're an online business, figuring out how to email people and get a high return on ad spend or return on investment for your emails, trying to tighten up those emails. I would love to get to a point where we can do a podcast where we're like, here's what the email should say. And it will absolutely it'll double your
Inbound pipeline. Yeah. However you build that pipeline, it's really outbound pipeline. Yeah.
right. Get that call set up, whatever it is. So those are some of the ones I follow. There are others, but those are the big ones. Hormozy's great. Met him, nice guy, super nice guy. Layla, same thing. But the reality is it still comes back to the principles that we just talked about. Authenticity, figuring out what their problem is, the root problem. Can you solve it? If you can solve it, and then figure out what the goal is to close. Like, what is the close goal? Is the close to get them to spend $25,000, which is a lot harder? Or is the goal to get them to register and test the thing out for free for 30 days, beta test? That SOP has to be built, but it still all stems from you can't get to registration or payment or billing or anything without step one, which is authenticity. Do you actually care about solving the problem?
I would like to try. This would be interesting, I think, for the podcast, but I think it would be fun to try to apply this authenticity principle to this outbound sales motion. So the idea here is, and the very few that have worked on me will hit me up on LinkedIn with nothing more than value, with zero ask. Right. All they're doing, like, it's such an easy thing for me. I get 100,000 people in LinkedIn that reach out to me and say, hey, Chris, have you thought about blah, blah, blah? And it's like their sales pitch is in the first 4 sentences. Like, it doesn't work, right?
Yep.
I turn it off. Like, I don't even, I
Sure.
assume if the first thing you say to me is a sales pitch, like, you're not actually interested.
Right.
It would be very interesting if what you were doing was picking out who your sales leads were and literally reading up on them to find out what's going on and how do you determine, what their needs are. And you do nothing more than provide value for a period of time. Hormozy recommends this for free.
Right.
Hormozy recommends
as a
this approach.
Consultant, like you said, for an hour or whatever for free.
Are you an expert? If you are, then surely these people would be interested in at least getting some of the information that you want to provide them. If it's not marketing material, like, it can't be marketing material. It needs to be like stuff they need, and it's free, right?
Perfect.
Interesting.
Awesome. That's another episode of the Build Your Business podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We would love a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Again, Undoing Urgency, available on Audible or audiobooks for somewhere between $1 and $2. So it's a great time to get it. And I know you got another call and you got to jump off. So we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next Friday.